in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, guys, we're back for another panel. Today, we got Derek Corion, the big man, the elk assassin, the elk slayer, Jesus himself, and of all, and
Get those knives sharpened up, boys.
and of course, Lando,
Always,
co-pilot Lando.
always a pleasure.
All right, today's questions. Best elk scout. Oh my goodness. Best elk scouting practices for preseason. Derek, you're going to love these questions, dude. I think these are actually tailored for you, dude. Has long-range hunting crossed the line from skill to technology dependence?
Heavy.
Are
Controversial.
rangefinders and ballistic apps making hunters less capable? What modern hunting product do you think is basically a gimmick? And are e-bikes changing fair chase principles?
Holy
Very
shit.
interesting.
There's a lot of controversy in those questions.
I got opinions on all that,
I can see your eyeballs. They lit up as soon as we hit those.
especially that last one.
Oh, I like it. I
Yeah.
like controversy. It's fun.
Yeah.
Lately, Lando and I, we haven't been seeing eye to eye in a lot of things. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Nothing wrong with silver.
Okay, but all right. All right. Best elk scouting practices preseason. I feel like this is a good one because this is going to be different for all of us, so we can kind of touch on all the different tactics and scouting. Lando, you want to go first?
I do like similar to you guys. My
Nice. Are you just doing that, saying that to contradict what I just said?
yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
Argument.
'Cause I just literally said all three of us can touch on different things, and you say, I feel like mine's the exact same as yours.
I like to get in the mountains where I can see from a distance. No, here in Saskatchewan, it's my elk spot. What I was going to say, similar to you guys, is not primarily right where I live. So it's at a bit of a distance, a bit of traveling. I mean, for my primary spot. So I utilize a decent amount of trail cams along with I actually don't overly care for being super early when I do my scouting.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, I mean, I don't find like in beginning of August, end of July, I find it is kind of pointless. Oh, there's me and there's Derek. So, distractions on the screen. If you're
was I distracting you? Sorry.
If you're not watching this, if you're just listening to this, Kevin is he's a funny man.
He's being rude.
So yes, I rely on using trail cameras throughout the summer in varying locations just to see, because lots of the spots that I primarily hit are some private coupled with a bunch of public. And if elk are not in the area,
Do you have permission on the private?
I do have permission on the private.
Perfect. That's just a good
Good,
caveat to throw in there.
Good. Always have permission. It helps when your name is on the title.
Feel like you should slide those in there whenever you're talking about private land.
Absolutely. Or permission property. Just call it permission property. So that being said, with those being smaller portions, if elk aren't there, they aren't there. So then you focus on where they are via trail camera. And then about a week out from season, then I will actually start doing more boots on the ground, making sure that they're doing what they've done in the past and, doing that recon closer to season, because if not, I feel like it's a complete waste.
I feel like Derek's his preseason scouting is a lot more labor intensive than mine and yours. We rely heavily on trail cameras. And I don't think Derek has ever even turned a trail camera on. Definitely
I used one and I didn't even use it. Like I put it on the tree and I shot a bull in an hour from then. And then I had to double back and get my camera. So I'm backing out the elk.
Never using one of these things again.
Well, for me, it's like the only time I've ever really utilized trail cams is if I'm starting to get my ass kicked in the morning, like with that morning travel, and especially if like you're high marking like saddlebacks and stuff like that, where you're seeing elk just kind of as a shadow getting away from you morning first light. I'll put a trail cam up there, especially if I'm seeing like beds too, like high up in the snow, more late season stuff. If I'm trying to determine the direction of travel. So if I have like a saddle or a choke point that I know there's elk in there, or it's a travel corridor, I'll put that on there just so I can determine it. Am I going right or left over a ridge, right? And then that'll start to build a picture of which direction they're going and what trails are they hitting at what time periods, right? For me, I think this is there's two parts to this, right? Like if you're a beginner hunter, this is going to be very, very laboring because I think the starting point is just covering big terrain features, trying to find a elk, a cow, something that essentially will help you to narrow down either travel corridors or zones of pressure or something to start off of is really important. And I think at the start that can be really daunting because you think there's an elk everywhere. Like, this looks great. Why isn't there elk in here? So that's where yeah, there probably is at one point, but I think to find those little honey holes, you have to put in the work and you're going to have to get in there. And I think looking around and I think like hunting in general, people, they're really fast and furious. And what I've learned is if you slow down, you can be fast, you can walk through areas quick, but you have to pay attention to small details. So that'd be like looking and identifying if there's trails that are heavy use, actually looking at the tracks, seeing what's on those trails, whether it's mule deer, is it actually elk, is it cows, like cattle? You know, those things matter. Mm-hmm. Looking at water, is it crystal gem clear? Is it all muddied up? Because elk tend to like clear water in general. And start building the framework of, okay, I've seen an elk. You put in that work. Then looking at what features are attracting them to this place. Like, why are they here? Like, what's so special this place, right? Like, there's trees over there. There's water there. What are the things that you're looking for? I think usually what I'm looking for is shaded areas with heavy timber. Looking for creek beds or water sources, something that can be really difficult in some areas, just because if there's lots of water, that's going to be less important, I would say. Rut sign, historical rut sign, staging areas is really important. So that would be like old rubs. Sometimes you'll see bulls will hit the same areas. That's an August thing though. So yes, go through those areas and identify those areas, but typically in my experience, that's really early stuff like velvet getting ripped off, but that's good. That means that they're in the area and they'll start breaking off and going to different territorial benches. So as soon as I see that, I look at the different benches and the bench systems and I'll say, okay, well, what's a 20-degree slope? Is there north facing slope? Is there break? So, you know, some cover, but not wide open, but breaking. So they do have that transition where they can go into timber if they need to, or they can go out in the open at night. Is on the edge of egg. You know, those things are really important to elk because they're big animals. They do need to be continually feeding up to 20 pounds of feed a day. That's what I've heard. And I do believe it. I've cut open their stomachs and it's nuts. So, you know, thinking about that, you know, as you start building that picture of what elk look like, that'll really help you. And then the second thing would be, you know, early, I would say looking for like signs of wallows, you know, scat, things like that. And especially at last light, if you can, I'd stay the last light and then you'll see the elk coming in, because you have to think about kind of like this progression of as they mature. You know, once they hit closer to rut or like later summer, those bigger bulls are on their own, but they were raised by cows. So they still do understand where the cows are. because they were going the same corridors when there were spikes. So I think they do remember that to a degree. So when they hit maturity, they may be on their own up in some higher elevation, but they'll come down to where they know there's historically cows. And then the last thing I look at is kind of that zone of elevation, especially in mountain terrain, where I think determining whether or not it's a wet year or a dry year is really important in some cases. Because if it's really wet, usually they'll be higher up because they have an advantage for predation, right? And humans. So if they can scratch a living up there at the higher elevation, that's where I'll usually find them. Versus if it is kind of dry, they'll be down in the shaded areas because they're forced to. Now that will push them into first and last slate encounters, but it is a factor.
Good points,
Yep.
Derek. I think I agree with pretty much everything you said. I think the hardest part when you first start elk hunting is finding like an elk spot or elk spots.
Yeah.
That is something that I am always looking for. I'm always looking for new elk spots while I'm hunting elk, while I'm hunting other species. I'm constantly looking to increase my portfolio of elk hunting grounds. For me, I rely heavily on trail cameras, finding those bachelor groups early on while they're still in velvet, looking for legal bulls, 6-point bulls minimum in British Columbia where I hunt. And then from there, once I determine that there is some good bulls around, they typically don't leave far. One thing elk need every day is, like Derek said, they need good water source. I live in a very arid desert place. There isn't a lot of water sources, so it's just a matter of finding out where they're getting water every day and then honing in on them. And every year it's a little different. Some years, they get locked in on private land, and some years there's just not a 6-point bull in the area, that I'm hunting. So that's why it's important to have a bigger portfolio of areas, so I can hopefully try to find a 6-point bull. But then I'm just doing the same thing. I'm looking for the same stuff that Derek talked about, north-facing slopes. Elevation really isn't an issue to me. I don't hunt in a very high, heavy, high elevation. I hunt in low elevation, very dry, very desert-like, so water is a must. And so I always focus heavily on water. And then once you understand the herd dynamics and just what elk need, you're going to get on elk. For me, it's always just a matter of if there's a legal bull in there for me to kill.
Yeah, I think the water thing, especially like for dry versus wet season years, is something that really is important for like Rocky Mountain hunts where there's high verticality. That's what I've noticed is it can be very daunting finding those little pockets at that elevation, because sometimes the elk, if they can, they'll cliff themselves out. You'll see them on that tree line, and like it's really difficult with bow.
Yeah, I've hunted in the Rocky Mountains a handful of times, and my approach in the Rocky Mountains is very similar to what you're talking about. The high elevation, there's more water up there. It's cooler, less chance of predation up there, less predators, less pressure. It's just a lot different than where I'm hunting down here. So
it's interesting, like you guys talking about the cool temperature and trying to find moisture. Here, when we have like those big fire years and it's still like a decent amount of moisture up in the forest, just I'd imagine because of all the trees and what have you, but you will find them on those fire years gravitating more to what low spots that you have. So even dried up sloughs where it kind of recedes down, when you're walking through the woods and you get that temperature change, even if it's like, that is really key stuff that I find where they will bed up, especially in midday or big spruce patches. They seem to be drawn to that around beaver dams and stuff like that. That is a big thing that I look for early season if I'm on Onyx, looking at new spots, because that's just natural. You're talking about corridors in the mountains. That creates natural funnels that all those elk have to take.
Yeah.
Because it creates a pathway that they have to walk if they're in that area.
Yeah, and you have to really think about too, like wind, and like I look at elk like it's almost like they're an aquatic organism. They're going in and out with a tide. It's like they need that wind is like they can't breathe without that wind. So as they're getting the wind shift and it's coming in their face, they're going up. They're going up in the morning because they know where they're going and they can smell everything that's ahead of them, especially if there's high verticality. And then once they get there, well, the wind is it's shifting again, right? So then the wind's coming up to them because it was coming down into their face. Afternoon, it switches, it's coming up into their face. They're looking down. And then that switches again. So that's why they're going in and out. That's their lifeline, right? So that does to a degree, like if there's a lot of pressure from humans or like cats, especially wolves, bears, especially wolves, they'll really utilize that verticality. So, you will have to play it safe in some cases to locate them in the morning and then wait to make a move till like 2:00 because the wind will start switching. So that's where you do have to be really intelligent and not very reckless. I had one bull in the morning, close encounter, and it was just like it wasn't going to happen, right? Because you don't have enough time. So then you're rushing, calling in, blew up the bull. Other hunters got in on the action too. It was just a wreck. And that was because I was putting way too much pressure on myself to get it done before the wind shift in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So preseason, utilize trail cameras when you can. Look at those places, north-facing slopes, understand elk behavior, herd dynamics. How long has long-range hunting crossed the line from skill to technology dependence? Derek,
Interesting.
what's up with this question?
It's kind of tough.
I feel like this is right in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, it's
Like, what's the farthest you've ever shot? Wasn't it like 2K or something like that?
Yeah. I think it like
Shot bottle cap off a bottle at 2K
without breaking the bottle.
Shot a rock about that big. Yeah, 10-shot group, like 10 to 12 inches. Yeah, 2.7 seconds. My friend actually just shot out to 3,380 yards, 6.8 or 9 second flight time.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Repeat.
Can you reel that back a little bit?
3,380 yards.
One more time.
3,380 yards.
Couldn't bring her to a round number, eh?
No. 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 So, there is leaps and bounds technologically, right? But it's like we talk about this quite a bit about like gadgets and is it helping, is it hindering? There's a fine line, right? Like for most cases, I would say that it actually has increased the ethical hunting to a degree because a lot of these people are going to be making crazy shots to begin with. And if they're not practiced in shooting and have a good rangefinder and ballistics and gear management under control, they'll just miss anyway, right? If they don't have that nailed down. But for the guys who are motivated to kill and they shoot their rifle regularly, I think it's really good because it increases the lethality and decreases the chances of wounding animals to a degree.
What kind of frickin' optics do you need to shoot over 3 kilometers away?
Major. He's going to be running a Callus, but he was running a 38 power Night Force. Yeah,
that's actually lower than I was expecting.
Yeah, attacker. And it's tough because you have to get a crosswind instead of a boiling mirage because that wave.
So that's just over 3 kilometers, 3,093 meters.
Yeah. Yeah, and he first round hit.
That's impressive.
Yes. And then he
So
missed.
was he like working up to that? Not to get off this question. I'm just
kind of like he shot 2,200 yards first to warm up.
And then he's like, well, let's put this out to 3,
like
4, 8 or whatever
he shot and it hit over target because like he's running a really over pressure 300 Norma shooting 245s, like over pressure, like 122,000 psi over pressure, running like 30 like 3,200 feet per second.
He's running
bat. And that's why he can handle it, right? Yeah. With a 37-inch barrel. So
that is wild,
mega
man.
cannon.
Yeah.
So let's not just okay. So has long range hunting crossed the line from skill to technology dependence? I feel that is amazing. Obviously, the dude's not shooting an animal at 3 kilometers. What would you say, Derek, would be for a guy with that much skill? What would you think would be an ethical distance for him to shoot at?
Well, I think if
Like a
he can,
kilometer?
no, because here's the problem with all of this. Like, that's a 30-pound gun, purpose built, has 100 MOA built into the rail on the scope mount. Very, very purpose built. You know, the average, like a hunting rifle, like my friend, he could probably shoot out to 1,000 plus. But again, it has really to do with your bullet speed and your terminal performance that you're going to get on animals.
Mhm.
I know that's kind of a touchy subject because there's a lot of people like really pushing towards the really, really small stuff, like, you know, 6 Creedmoors and 6.5s and 25 Creedmoor.
6.5 PRC.
Yeah, 6.5 PRC
6.5
majorly.
by 47.
Yeah, and that's amazing, right? And you are going to get animals killed with that. Like, there's no doubt. But when you get into the hyper performance,
Shoot it with this, you kill it.
yeah, like realistically, right?
22.
Like, yeah, you definitely could. But to get that wind performance, he's shooting some serious horsepower. Like, this is like king of 2 mile, and so you're not really going to be lugging that thing around. So, you know, bringing it back to like, okay, like what's
not an ideal backpack rifle. That's what you're saying.
No, like, yeah, maybe if you had like a freaking wagon for it or a cart.
Yeah.
Like, it's not.
I think I've seen Bobby Lee Swagger running around the bush with that kind of gun, wasn't he?
Yeah.
In that movie, Shooter.
Yeah, it's like so that was like a 408 interdiction, I think. Yeah, M 200, I think. 408 Shy Attack. Heavy rifle. Same kind of rifle, right? Like big stuff. Like his is obviously a 300 Norma, but horsepower. So, you know, to come back to the question, like,
I feel like not cutting you off, Derek. I feel like this question and the third question, they kind of go in tandem.
Yeah, like where we're at right now with like laser rangefinders and kestrels and whatnot, like everyone, like lots of guys have kestrels.
Yeah.
I think they're really underutilized. Some cases kind of not unnecessary, but I don't think people take the time to learn wind in order to really push the envelope on like their distance for ethical hunting. I think once guys
feel the same way about archery.
Birds, it's a lot
like guys
tougher.
guys shooting at animals 70 plus yards don't understand wind dynamics on their arrow and like when it matters. Like they might go to the range and be like, oh yeah, my arrow pushes this much to the right. Well, it's one thing to shoot a target and say that after it hits and be like, I just got to hold this way after. But when you're shooting at an animal, you don't have a follow-up arrow right away. So you can't just shoot at the target and be like, oh, I got to aim 8 inches to the left. Yeah. If you hit the animal 8 inches front, like too far forward, it could be dramatic. Not to mention you might not find the animal and it might wound it or kill it later. Like,
I think if we stay with the technology we have today, it's ethical. If we go to the future and we start adding on, like, say, LiDAR, that's where it gets that line of ethical hunting, I think. Once we get LiDAR radar doing wind calls up to 500 yards, which is on the future, like that's coming. Trigicon already has a rangefinder that can do that. It's very expensive, but you know how this game is played. As soon as someone starts developing the technology. So once there's wind calls for us, that's where it gets a little bit weird for me. You know, I think that line, it's a personal line, right? It depends on your practice. It depends on what you're doing, like as far as your gear and especially the calibers that you're shooting. But I think a starting point of like the ethical line is like 600 is really, I think, really ethical. I think most shooters
600 or less.
Yeah, like 600 or less. You know, some guys will say, well, I'll push 700, 800. Yeah, for sure. Like, you know, but animals are moving, you know, there's wind. You're
weirdness.
probably huffing it to get into position. So in a perfect world, if you got time, you know, that 600-700 now where that shows up with technology, it's just like the Garmin's, right? Like when you had in archery, everyone has their laser scopes, and it looks like it's going to be a huge advantage. But when you look at the success rates, they haven't really moved, right? So it gives you an edge, and it's kind of this perpetual competition. And I feel like that's really where it's tough, is you're competing with everyone else. So the technology just kind of, you're looking for that little bit of edge, but how much it matters, I think you're still going to see the same amount of elk. You're still going to see the same
Yeah,
amount
you got
of
to
deer.
find the elk first for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot to being said of shooting an animal and shooting a target. I mean, for me, I've always had like that 400 inch, or sorry, not 400 inch. I love 400 inch poles. 400 yards. That's around like my max. When I was shooting a lot, I don't shoot nearly as much as I used to. I don't shoot at all. So I think if I was going to get back into it, I'd have to definitely hit the range.
Yeah, and it's really tough for me because you see a lot of people giving a lot of advice online, especially like influencers, and it gets really tough for me to listen to some of the shit here because they're not like
Because
guys.
there's one thing if like doing it for clicks and actually doing it to share knowledge are two different things
Yeah,
nowadays.
right.
It used to mean a lot more.
Yeah, it did. And I think that the emphasis is put on like electronics and things of that
Rather than
nature, like
ability.
gadgets, instead of like fundamentals of marksmanship and like your gun, bolt, bullet, dynamic. Just like your fundamentals of reloading and all these core different skills that you have to have to attain that. I think they're trying to hit an easy button. But like I said, like in the past, you used to see the people who understood burning out a barrel. They really have their under control because they know how to troubleshoot things when things go wrong. They've done the work to tune and maintain that tune throughout the lifespan of the bore. And those guys are really dialed. They're information based. They're tracking that cold bore shot. They're tracking when they're cleaning and why they're cleaning and what that looks like on target. They're just
How often should you clean a gun?
As much as the gun tells you to. So so that's actually a really interesting question. So initially you can get away with quite a bit of rounds down the tube. Some guns are more finicky, like
Isn't it like a 22? Isn't it preferred to be a little dirty?
Yeah, like when you hunt, you want to have some base level fouling. There's two ways to look at this. So you can look at it like some guys will run like call a copper foul equilibrium, which is you build up really, really quickly to a certain level of fouling, and then that fouling is just slowly increasing. And then it eventually will hit a point where it's almost exponential fouling because it's so foul that it's almost too tight interface fit inside the bore. And you start having kind of like, it just starts throwing shots and doing weird stuff. And in some guns, like guys who are like tactical shooters, they'll rarely, some of them will just say, I never clean my gun. Versus others in competition, they'll do a baseline. So they'll go out, they'll shoot like 100 rounds. They'll do a baseline. There's two different things to consider with that. If you're shooting all the time, it's not as much of an issue, but like in Alberta and probably especially in like Saskatchewan, like maybe not so much where you're at. Like it depends on how humid it is. Like if it's really, really dry air and there isn't very much humidity, you'll see almost like a hardening effect of your carbon buildup where it gets almost like hard, like concrete. Mm-hmm. So you'll start seeing like pressure increases and stuff like that. Now, I used to not really clean too much, and I've kind of changed that over time. So initially, you're breaking in your gun. It's going to allow you to shoot like 100 rounds. You're not really going to see much. Some, it might be sooner if that's the case. You just start cleaning faster. Like one gun I have, it's like 20, 30 rounds, and I got to clean. But stereotypically, you'll see where that bore is really quite smooth and it's in really good condition. There's not very much fire cracking. And this kind of goes into seating depth and all of that tuning that we were talking about in the start of the other show that wasn't recorded. But yeah, anyway, so how you manage this though is as you get a certain level of fouling, you'll have to start cleaning. And that cleaning regime will start to intensify as your bore ages. It'll hit a certain level. And what you'll see if you take a bore scope and you look down that bore, you'll see a lot of things. You'll see certain cartridges, they have a higher propensity for that carbon ring near the neck. So if you're excessively trimming your necks, you'll have more carbon in there and you'll be able to tell that. So that's something that you may have to clean periodically more so than just your bore. But what you'll see is this fire cracking effect and case hardening of the actual metal itself down your bore, especially in the first critical sections, like your lands, usually like 16, 17 inches from that point. You'll see where that's where all the heat is, because that's where the cartridge is burning up all the powder. And what you'll see is this kind of like snake scaly looking structures that'll start, and that's thermal erosion, right? So not only is it hydraulically, or well, not hydraulically, but impacting your bore surface. So that's case hardening, that's working that metal, and it's heating it up. So the harder you run your barrel, the more shots you do, the more strings you do, the higher temperature you allow your bore every time you shoot, the worse that'll get and the faster that'll occur. Now, what will happen is eventually you'll get to a point where it almost has a roughness. And so what you're really managing is two things. You're managing pressure spikes and inconsistencies because of your carbon buildup and carbon rings potentially. And secondarily is that roughness. And so what I've done is I'll run wipeout for the first little bit, and it's just a flush out. It's to get all the carbon out. And then once I've done all of that, what I'll do next is I'll run like a KG6 bore polish, or even like the Thorough Clean. And that stuff is really good, but you have to be very cautious with this. You should have a bore scope, and you may not have to do this until you're like 1,000 rounds down the barrel. But
1,000 rounds is a lot.
It is, but it can come up, right? And it can really throw you for a loop, because you think you're like, well, like it's not shooting. It's not grouping good. Like a barrel burning out should be this gradual increase of aggregate group size. It shouldn't be like it shot good and then all of a sudden it's like shooting all over.
So you'll notice it in your grouping.
Yeah, gotcha. You will. And it'll be something that you feel like you can't control. You don't know what the hell is going on. So obviously you got to check your bedding, check your scope is loose. But the first thing is, like, realistically and pretty easy, clean your gun. And I'll use this kind of like, it's almost like you're lapping. It's an abrasive. It's not as serious as lapping compound like some guys use with like a lead slug. But essentially what you're doing is you're knocking down that roughness. And you'll see that with like top level competition shooters, like, AB ballistics and like Lits. Those guys, they talk about this as the bore gets shot out. You'll have this roughness, and you're managing really the roughness, because it's also kind of like you'll see like sections of your bore will start to flake and you'll start to change. And that's what's changing your impact. So it'll be shooting really good, grouping really nice and zeroed. All of a sudden it starts moving. So your point is impact shifts is moving. That's probably because your roughness inside your bore, again, pressure spikes or something's changing. Now, granted, you're probably at nearing the lifespan of that bore, but you can put this bore polish down there. If you have a bore scope, you can see how much. You just take your time and you go really slow and you work those key areas. And what that'll do is that'll smooth out all this roughness, so that it kind of tames down temporarily. It resets that clock. So you think of it, you got this really big range where everything is able to run, and you can just do kind of mild cleaning practices. But as that age of that barrel, the more rounds, especially high performance, that time period between that roughness having to have been taken care of slowly starts to reduce. So you'll have to address that roughness more periodically, more often as the barrel ages out. And then you'll have to refoul it again, a couple shots downrange. After you do all that, obviously you'll have to clean out with like wipeout any of that excess material. And if you're going to do long storage, like you put oil in it and whatnot. But if you're going to go out and shoot, you can do that. Some guys like to use isopropyl as well, like 90%. You want to be careful with 70 because you could have some residue again. And then also cleaning that chamber is really important too, because that reduces the chance of those peak pressure instances as well. So I know that's a very long-winded thing, but so
Well, I feel like we got a couple bonus questions in there because I initiated that with how often you should clean your gun, but then you also got how to clean your gun involved with that as well. So, I mean, yeah, no, it's good. I mean, information is information. So we're gonna run off that one now because we do have some more questions here. Are rangefinder and ballistic apps making hunters less capable? I feel like this is another good one for you guys. I feel like I run that full draw 5, that Leopold full draw 5, and it's got the arrow trajectory app, the capability inside of it. I don't like that because it's, for me, I'm always questioning it. Yes, it's accurate, but is it accurate all the time? And is it going to fail the one time I need it not to? That's where I get. Like, if there's a 360-inch bull there and I don't feel I can make the shot because there's a branch in the way, and I end up trusting the rangefinder because it says it's going to have a clear path, and I hit the branch and I never see that elk again, that would be devastating. Whereas I probably could have just let it slip away undetected, got myself into another position, and made the shot. What's your thoughts, Lando?
I feel like to a certain degree, in ways it has. Like, there's a lot of dependency on, Derek mentioned kestrels and stuff like that. There's a lot of guys, if their gear isn't like working, it's like panic mode. They're not taking a shot.
Yeah, we're down.
Yeah. Which, I mean, in certain aspects, if you're planning on shooting something at 700 yards, I mean, you kind of want to make an educated decision. But I feel like to a certain degree, you should know how to.
But this is in hunting applications, as per the question.
Yeah,
not
and
target, long range.
That's what I'm saying. But lots of guys will still 700 yards is a go space for a lot of guys, and I feel like that's kind of became a more trend now too. You see a lot of guys even out here. It's not uncommon to see a full custom build rifle, from some random dude, and it's like, I wonder how many rounds he has behind that. Or did he just go to his buddy's quarter and throw up a plate at 1,000 yards and, start giving it clicks until he started hitting it, and good.
Yeah, that's tough because like now the availability of Garmin's and all that, guys think that they're getting a true ballistic calculation, and for the most part, probably, right? We're very close. But like you say, there's no substitute for those actual reps at distance. So like 700,
or the knowledge
800.
of like,
what's going to happen?
Yeah,
because they think,
I'm sure,
I'm
sure there's a point where you get to having the ability to shoot 2 kilometers. You could shoot sub 500 yards, and you just know by looking
100%.
at it, just by feeling the wind, stuff like that. But if you're always reliant on these apps and all this technology, and all of a sudden it craps out on you, because sooner or later technology is going to crap out on you. Batteries are going to die. It's not going to work. It's only inevitable. It's going to happen. And then when you need it, it's not there. Then you make an educated decision based on the information you know or the knowledge you have, and it's not where it should be, and then you miss or you wound the animal.
Yep.
I've actually had this happen.
There you go.
Multiple
I feel
times.
like the technology and all this stuff, it should support your skills, not replace them.
Whoa. Did you read that on a bumper sticker or something?
No, I just I wrote that.
You just wrote that
in the confidence.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to edit this out and make it sound like I said that.
That's like every episode. Kevin has a lot of great sayings. But really, I mean, you were talking about your buddy shooting just under 4,000 yards, but he had to wait for the correct wind where he could read the wind correctly, so he didn't have a boiling mirage.
And you're setting up, your setup time is way, way longer. And that's the thing. Like, it's funny because, like, for your effect, like we talk about, don't romanticize some of the shots and the shot opportunities you're actually going to get. So if you're inside like 650 yards, like I've shot elk unsupported 650 in like 15, not even 15 seconds, like a couple seconds, range, dial, shoot, ready to roll. Now, what if you're setting up and you got a Kestrel and then you're starting to, like, yes, for those longer shots, you do need additional sensors to help you reduce this tidal wave of cumulative errors that will result in a miss. That is 100% true. But you should use these tools in a way where you gain experience that allows you to increase your success rate if something does happen and it goes down. Like you say, it should be supporting your skill set, not your skill set, so that if the batteries go dead, I had this on an elk, 850 yards, tough shot, but they're up in this valley, snow. And, it's kind of like I'm shooting downhill, and I decided to not make the shot because Kestrel went down. I did have ballistics, but there was a lot of things happening, right? Like temperature was changing. We had an updraft. And that's where I say, like, you should be, and this is why it's helped me with like the archery mindset. I can always get closer. I know I can.
Mm-hmm.
In some cases you can't because they're moving around and you may only get one shot opportunity. Okay. That's rare though. For me personally, that's pretty rare. So like you say, you should be utilizing, like, your Kestrel should be helping you to learn the wind with your eyes. You're feeling the wind and understanding wind and dynamics of that. And it should be like an additional thing. If you can just pop it out and you can start, bracketing the wind. And if you have your gun speed for your wind, that can be really effective. But like that's in a competition setting, these guys are doing this repeatedly. They're putting the reps in. If you just think that you can just run your trajectory, your bullet speed off your gun, put in your app, and then just start shooting elk at 800. Well, yeah, you probably could, but you're going to start missing and you're not going to know why. And then you're going to start putting in all the work you should have done anyway. And it could be on a bull.
You're going to hit back and, like, that's where I think, and we touched on it a bit earlier, do things that are ethical. I can decently shoot my bow out to 150 yards. Pretty reasonable grouping. I am not going to shoot an animal even remotely close to that.
Yeah. I think I just get too worried that, like, they're going to get away.
Yeah.
Like, you have to get the vitals, man. Like, you have to.
Yeah, and I like being close enough where you can see where that animal's running, the direction he's going in. There's nothing worse than, like, there's no worse feeling than not knowing what direction that animal ran to.
Man,
I hate blood trailing.
Talk about last light shots. Shoot an animal at 1,000 yards. And then you still got to walk up to him to retrieve him, to get him open him up, quarter him up. That's a last light. That is a freaking ordeal, right? So there is that fine line. We all have to have that ethical voice in our head to be the limiting factor. But I think, like, ultimately, like, a lot of this stuff, technology will really help to a point, but it can kind of hinder you with your setup time and everything that you have to haul around.
Yeah. Agreed, man. Use it wisely.
Yeah, exactly.
We are rolling into a very interesting question, which I feel like, Derek, you've told me some stories regarding this question.
Oh, I already know what we're talking about. Oh, fuck. Yeah, the e-bike thing, man.
Are e-bikes changing bear chase rules?
Yeah, I feel like guys, like, they're just mountain biking. Like, it's like a motorcycle. Like, I'm literally, like, I've had guys rip past me going, I swear, to like 30, 40 kilometers per hour. And I'm just like, what the hell are you guys doing? Like, there's elk right down there. I think it can be a powerful tool, but it can also hinder your ability. It's like you're just you're driving past the elk instead of, letting the hunt dictate how far in you're going. So they're really pushing a lot. Like, and this isn't everybody. Some guys are really intelligent about this, but I'll see where the elk or animals are, especially elk, not so much deer, but elk are getting really pushed to the outer edges of zone of pressure just because of the accessibility of, and this isn't just e-bikers on them or anything. It's dirt bikers. It's ATVing and really pushing the envelope recklessly. I think there is a place for all of these tools, but I think too there is some people that are really reckless and they're just kind of cruising instead of just like getting out. Like, okay, we're up on a bench where there's elk. Like, how many elk have you cruised past and spooked?
I feel like in your situation, in like kind of foothill, mountainous terrain, man, you gotta be hunting all the time.
Yeah.
Like even when you're hiking in the dark, trying to, get back to your location that you primarily want to hunt, there could be elk 50 feet or 50 yards down from you, and you'll hear them. But you know what I mean? If you're ripping on a bike and all you hear is gravel underneath your tires, well, you're going to just blow right past it.
So my first bull elk I shot with my bow, I shot that bull and there was a car alarm going off in the background.
Yeah.
Like, there's elk right on the road, guys. Like, you just have to take your time and slow play some of this instead of rushing in there and making a big racket. There is that middle zone where, you're in that zone of pressure where guys are they start going in there so far that they're creating a secondary zone of pressure that's closer to the road, where it's like you're not in the back country, you're kind of in that front country area.
I was just going to say front country hunting has become better than back country hunting because there's so many people in the back country. Yeah,
and the pressure is so intense. Like and again, like it's just part of that people are trying to technologically push the advantages that they have access to get around. I think it was 2023.
I'm back, boys. Sorry.
That's all
Lost
good,
you
dude.
there.
2023, I was competing with that
weird.
in the morning. In the morning, I would get e-bikers.
What I missed, Derek, can you repeat everything you said? Sorry, I missed everything. Mistletoe.
Well, it's an arms race. That's what this whole episode is all about. It's an arms race of technology.
Landon, I did hear your question. You missed a question.
I totally missed one. I totally missed one.
That. Yeah, I know.
I realized it as soon as I did it, but that's okay. We'll rip back.
We'll
to
get
that.
back to it.
Okay.
We'll circle back.
I seen you were working on some other things.
Yeah, I was fumbling around here.
Yeah, it is. It's an arms race, like with everything. And I was.
So did you guys both go? Sorry, I'm right out of the loop now. The listeners are like, "Who is this idiot? What the fuck is this guy doing? This guy's a clown."
No, we're just talking about the impacts of.
See, as soon as I clicked off,
e-bikes.
You guys should have just started dogging me. You should have been like, "Finally."
Yeah.
Now we can get some real conversations.
Well, maybe
going.
I was actually thinking like maybe Kevin got an e-bike.
Yeah, that's why he signed out.
He's self-conscious. It's like,
I actually was just looking at e-bikes
I hate those e-bikers
on Best Buy.
I got 6 in the back. No matter how this conversation ends, let's go for a ride later.
I got a gift certificate to Best Buy.
Yeah, man. So, like what I was saying, like in the mornings, I'm really seeing that rush for like competition with e-bikes, and you really have to get in a position. Like if you're hiking lots. You're getting up at 4 a.m. and you may even get still beat to your spots. And it was getting to the point where I'm like, this is race. In the morning, it was getting intense. That I'm like, I'm getting there first, but like they keep upping the ante on me. And then finally, I was like, well, I'm gonna feel like an idiot if I don't kill an elk. But I last second made a critical decision. I'm like, I'm gonna grab my kid's mountain bike. I grabbed my kid's mountain, chuck it in the back of my truck. I'm like, if I don't kill an elk, I'm gonna look like an idiot. Like I got this mountain bike that I got to deal with. So I ripped the flats on this mountain bike to get up in the position, and I flashed my little flashlight at those boys on their e-bikes coming up the hill. I'm like, already beat I'm already here. You thought I was hiking this time. I got power wheels, baby.
That's a Huffy.
I got my
That's
mountain
a nice
bike.
looking bike you got there, son.
Oh my God. Yeah. And then I didn't kill the bull that morning, but I ended up killing a bull that evening. And then I'm like, well,
so let me
now at least
guess,
I don't feel like an idiot.
you're opposed to the e-bike.
No, I think
This is what I'm feeling.
No, I'm not
Getting that
opposed to it.
vibe.
I think they're great. I think like I would use one, like I haven't had to because I still got my wheels
Still
are
have
still
the pedal
decent enough. Well, my legs, right? Like will go straight up instead of high marking or whatnot. But eventually that probably will go away. And e-bikes are really, really advantageous for just getting around. But I do
How long
think
is the
guys are
battery
really reckless.
life on an e-bike?
It's pretty good.
Pretty good, especially on the higher amp hour, higher wattage ones.
Mhm.
But I was going to
this
say,
one says it reaches speeds of 32 kilometers an hour with a range of up to 112K.
not bad.
Yeah,
I'm not
they're
going
really good.
112K back.
They're really good. I think just guys sometimes get a bit reckless with them, right? Like
You need a little dolly or a cart to pull behind it too, though, I think.
Yep, they make them.
Yep.
With front wheel drive as well.
Yep.
For those big hills.
Really? Like alternating front rear wheel?
Front and rear drive. So you can
Come on,
climb good
Lando.
hills. I'm
Oh,
not
yeah.
joking, man. Look it up.
I'm
But
gonna ask Google
it's no
here.
different than like a
We're gonna
dirt
get
bike
into it.
or like an ATV. It's like it's a tool.
Full
You got to utilize them
wheel
in the right way to be successful. Still, like
drive
if you're making a big racket, you're not going to kill an elk.
e-bike.
Yeah, I think they're better that they're quiet.
Yeah, 100%.
But I feel like you touched on it, how you said
You
when
weren't
get
kidding, buddy. They do make them. They're not cheap, but
Mhm.
yeah, $3,000.
Yep.
That's a cheap one.
Yeah,
You-
usually like 6 for
I
a
was
really
gonna
good one.
There's guys that get
the
like
cart.
going for 8 Gs.
Really?
Oh yeah.
And like I say, like they're wicked. But some individuals, I think, give them a bad name because they're literally ripping past prime elk area, and that pushes the elk into the outer edges of private almost, right? Like
Are
push
those
them into
dudes
private.
hunting?
Yeah. They're hunting. They're cruising.
Some people
They're
might
cruising
just be
for a
ripping
bruising.
around.
Like some of those guys have put me through the roof, pissing me off because I'm literally on elk, and then they just drive past. They didn't even see them.
Derek, I can't see you getting frustrated at all in the backcountry.
I was just like, sometimes like too, like even with like in the morning where guys put it's no different than everyone sees a big herd of elk and then someone's really pushing an envelope, but they do it in a reckless way. Where it's like you like I can respect the guy. You're pushing the envelope. You're going for it. You're going chips in, but at least kill the bull.
Yeah,
Like you did all that. Like you dick. You didn't even kill a bull. It's like at least
Lando,
like I can respect the guy that do that, and then you kill the animal, but it's like you just kind of shot in the air almost, and then it's like the elk are scattered everywhere.
Lando, I see what you did now, and it's kind of genius how you flopped those two questions around. We're gonna get into this last question. We're gonna wrap this up. We just said are e-bikes changing fair chase principles? You skipped the question, what modern hunting product do you think is basically a gimmick? I'm gonna say the e-bike.
That's your pick. That's your go-to.
No, it's not. I got
Depends on the person.
I was gonna say, Derek touched on it. When your wheels are going out, you're getting older, and you still want to go have an experience out in the woods.
Yeah.
Like I know there's a guy that I work with, and he's actually.
Are we on the next question now, or are you still on this first one?
I'm just finishing up this e-bike one.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. He's throwing in the towel this year because he's too concerned about hunting alone and his physical capabilities, because he got a really accelerated heart last year while processing his deer, and it scared him. But I know for him, it kept him in the woods going to his deer stand for that extra 5 years, because he didn't have to walk, a mile through the bush.
Yeah, and for pack, like 100%, man. Like this is just like this is really ethical when you're talking about getting meat out, and especially if you're by yourself, 100%.
Yeah.
That's not where I always have the problem with any motorized vehicle. To me, it's just when it gets to the point that it's ruining the experience of the hunt, and you're hearing more vehicles driving than elk bugling.
Yeah, that's the problem.
That's the problem that I have.
So, what's the other problem? Rolling into the gimmick question. Kev?
I feel like these are, I think, yeah. Well, this is a tough one. What modern hunting product do you think is basically a gimmick? Ooh, man. That is a tough question.
Shooting sticks. Don't like them.
Oh.
Shooting sticks. I don't know if shooting sticks are modern. I feel like a shooting stick has been around for a while. I don't know, but
sorry.
Rifle.
Sorry. This technology is just reaching me, and I didn't like it.
I feel like those ozone things you put up in a tree stand behind you. I feel like that is one of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
I feel like those can't work, don't work, won't work. There's a lot. You see a lot of junk, it seems like, on advertised lately. I don't know. Yeah.
With that, I'm going to say like the vast majority of the scent control products are overhyped. And I'm not talking about ozone that you put in to a tote.
Yeah.
That actually works. It is like scientifically proven to eliminate odor on your clothing. I don't use that.
How does it work?
The
ozone particles attach to scent particles, and essentially it uplifts them and destroys them. It creates an oxidization effect, which will create a decay of the structure of the scent. Now, that being said, like with
how in the heck do
canines, because I know.
Why is the sky blue?
The commercials
It
worked.
just is.
The infomercials worked.
It just does.
Okay, everyone knows this stuff, Kevin.
Work?
Try and keep up.
It just does.
Yeah. How's the positive track and a Plymouth work? It just
But essentially what it does is it creates that reactivity, right? And then it starts to break down those scent molecules. Now, when you're talking about canines in scent tests, it'll give you kind of a couple of seconds, which is kind of a big deal. If you're dangerously close, is it going to become like the holy grail of scent control?
Mm-hmm.
Not really. But what it'll do though is like if you treat your clothing, it resets a certain point. Now, whether or not the animals can smell that difference, and actually even the ozone, which it probably can, and they'll probably catch on to that eventually. But I think what it'll do is it'll just give you maybe that unmeasurable edge, dangerously close, quartering past you where your wind is getting sketchy, may give you a slight moment to draw back and shoot. Archery, I think specifically, rifle, who gives a shit? You're not going to notice any of this stuff. Archery, though, I do believe in it to a degree. If you're sweating out your clothes and you're constantly changing over, if you don't want to wash it, just throw that shit in there, and it will dampen your maximum like BO smell. It'll kind of put it down lower, I feel like. But other than
mostly
that,
peaceful combat vet says ozone machines work in a tote or closet, but it does deteriorate elastics also. I still use it, but I wouldn't rely on it. Wind and thermals are king. I agree with you there, dude. Wind and thermals are
100%.
king.
Oh, I'm sitting here and I missed half the comments. I had it off to the side. Sorry, dude.
Lando, wake up, buddy. Like, come on, dude.
Yeah, that's
you gotta be better, dude. This is like it's game day here, bud. Come on.
That's first time stuff.
Focus.
But
you guys aren't getting off the hook. That was my pick. You guys still got to pick one.
Okay. Just touching back on that ozone, right? You should be careful also with optics, treating them in your tote take your bino harness and separate them from your binoculars. Some of those coatings, I feel kind of sketched out about putting ozone, really saturating them in ozone, just because of some of the lens coatings. I don't know what's going to happen with electronics with ozone. Like you say, like it can break down certain types of synthetic clothing.
Mhm.
What is that going to do to your, alloy objects? It probably isn't that good. So just cautionary on that.
Yeah.
Long-term use, right?
Yeah. Just to elaborate on my comment about your scent control stuff that you said with the ozone in the tree, Kev, I'm talking like there's always I can't remember, like scent killer washing detergent or this deodorant, or like there's scent eliminating gum. Just use unscented laundry detergent. You're going to get
That's
the same,
all I use. Yeah.
in my
And
opinion.
you know what? I don't even use unscented deodorant. I smell like a peach in the back country.
And this is going to be good because
Peaches attract elk. There you
Smell
go.
it. Smell it.
It's an orchard
Smell
elk.
what kind of peaches are we talking about?
One thing about this, and these are like these like scientific studies that like how do you even know this? But
I
just
feel like this is an
light-
episode of Ripley's Believe It or Not right now.
You guys just shut your mouth. I'm going to tell you the truth.
Okay, so when they've done some of these research projects where they look at the eye of like deer and elk primarily, there is an element of like kind of UV that in their vision spectrum. So the only thing you have to be cautionary about using like ultraviolet detergent specifically is that if you don't fully rinse it, you will look like a glow stick to elk.
You know what my wife used
specifically.
to do that used to really piss me off? She'd wash my hunting clothes with with regular clothes and fabric softener.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'd come out and I'd be out in the bush and I'd smell like a freaking downy sheet, which was
Yeah.
lovely because I would always be like, man, I smell so fresh.
You're like a meadow
Yeah.
blending in. But
She says, look, natural. I don't think that's a natural smell. Nothing in the bush smells as sweet as I do right now. I
no.
can guarantee it.
So, there is that, and also the color blue. So elk can really see blue, like absurdly well. You will stand out like a sore thumb. So, UV and that blue spectrum light, that's kind of like understand the behavior of animals and how they can see their surroundings and whatnot. Just make sure that you do, if you are going to use like UV detergent, that you make sure that shit's rinsed off you, because they will see that and it will glow in their vision.
Oh.
So, yeah, food for thought. Kind of interesting. A lot of this shit is just, it makes you feel good. Whether or not that helps you, probably won't.
Confidence kills, man.
That being said, I do all of this.
That's what I mean. If it gives
Superstitious.
makes you feel warm and fuzzy, I mean, why not?
Yeah, like how many trinkets of good luck and like weird ceremonial
So
things
all
do you
that
have,
you're telling
right?
me all that blue camo I just bought, it's not going to work.
Oh, I'm sure it would.
Damn it.
We'll see. Shit.
That was a terrible investment.
Yeah. Stupid move. Okay, Lando, let's hear it. Come on, you guys aren't off the hook. What modern
I
hunting
would say, aside from,
don't say ozone sprayer thing like I just said.
I was going to say, aside from scent products like that, I would like, one thing is I can't get behind is the self-climbing tree stands.
I love those things.
I don't believe you do.
Dude, I've never even used one.
That's what I mean. I just feel like
I use a ladder like a man.
there you go. I use climbing sticks in the saddle like a pole dancer. I feel like
you're yeah, well, I mean, you did do that, when you're 18 there in when you're living just
Those
outside
only
of
for a few
Calgary.
months.
times are tough, man.
Yeah.
$20 is $20.
Well, and then there was that one summer up north there at that camp. You did that some work up there.
There was quite a few.
I forgot.
And then
we
you
were
ran
supposed
into
to talk
Jake there.
Jake, what are you doing here?
Jake is the pole.
He's the pole.
Oh, anyway, the trees around here, it's not conducive to climb with a self-climbing tree stand, and I feel like a saddle accomplishes that a much better way for like a mobile option. It's lighter, it's more
Faster.
convenient, faster, quieter. Take your pick.
Cheaper.
Yeah. I mean, it's like anything. You can make stuff as crazy expensive as you want, but as far as a mobile tree stand option, I feel like that one has just. But there's guys that die on that hill. I just feel like it would be a great garage ornament.
Mm-hmm.
Derek, let's hear what you got.
It's pretty tough.
Oh,
It's
hold
pretty
on.
tough.
Hold on. While you think of it, Derek, mostly peaceful combat vet hit me. Bro, there's absolutely nothing like a nap in a summit climber. Gotta try it. Hey, buddy, it's whatever works for you, dude. I just in Saskatchewan, the trees here, it's just from what I've seen, it just does not jive. You can nap in a saddle. It just gets a little sketched out. Now I'm just all right, Derek, what do you got?
Well, like we touched on this earlier. I think there's a lot of things in like the like shooting and long range
E-scouting.
that like I don't really scout that much. Like I'll e-scout new areas, but I do that as like that's the last option. Like I already have my core areas. Like if you're building those areas, yeah, you gotta scout. But what you should do is you found some elk, you go in there, you scout. Then you have a new spot. You go and you walk that loop. You don't see anything. Okay, you're not going back there. Go to the next spot. You keep doing these things in different zones, different areas, completely different spots. Then you have a plan. You're confident to get out there and get boots on the ground. Then you're scouting while you're hunting. And sometimes you'll find your best honey holes. So yeah, like there is elements of e-scouting where it's like, it's overrated in some cases, but it's good to have a plan that you can execute, and then you have to prove to yourself every day what you're doing every day of the hunt. So you're not just sitting there with your dick out wondering like, oh, I don't know where to go. I wasn't seeing anything. Nothing's working. You have no plan there. You're burning time when you could be hiking into a new spot that could be a great spot. Right. That's where it comes into like gimmicky shit. Like, like a kestrel can be gimmicky, right? Like,
Would you take a kestrel hunting?
Yeah, I do. But like I say, like it's only for that special shot. It's not like I've never had to use it. I could always shoot on the fly. I could judge the wind and make the shot. I think where it'd be if I'm really pushing it with my kid, then and I'm solely in a spotter position, then yes, because I don't need to manage all this other shit of like rangefinder, ranging, dialing, doing all your fundamentals of marksman, and then the animal's moving. What are you going to pull your kestrel out? Start waving it around, just do a little swing with your kestrel to get your...
Put some blue on, put a blue ribbon on it.
Yeah.
Start throwing it around.
Maybe you could do that with antelope with like a little, like a white flag in them in.
Mm-hmm.
But, it can be gimmicky, right? Because you could lose opportunities trying to utilize gear that maybe not necessary in every circumstance. So that's why I get like your watch, your Garmin watch, and you got all these gadgets. You do have to find that middle ground. And it was a great demonstration in the my buddy Pat and I, we've done this many times with people where they come, they want to learn long range shooting, and they bring the kitchen sink. They got every gadget on their gun, with their gun. I'll be like, hey, let's shoot 750 yards. Range dial and engage the target. That's not even wind, because they're like, were you watching the wind as you're walking around out here? Do you understand the direction even? Are you going to observe the mirage? Make that shot. So They go and they got their kestrel out, and they have to get their ballistics through their kestrel, and then maybe they got their watch, and they got all their gear management's all jumbled up and not jiving. They're getting different numbers for the kestrel, different numbers for their rangefinder, and it's not a system. It's just kind of jumbled. And then, yeah, they make the shot, but it took 5 minutes setup versus range, dial, boom, shot.
Yeah, I don't feel like
seconds.
you have a lot of time for
No.
the most part. Sometimes you have a long time.
Yeah, but you
Depends
have
on
to,
what you're hunting. Like if you're hunting moose in an open area like northern
Yeah.
BC, you got a long time.
But
probably
that's where
have a
you
day or
have to
two,
change
to
the
be
way that you
honest.
hunt, right? Like even like guys are doing big mountain hunts with chassis and short barrels and whatnot. You know, that's you're kind of tailoring how you're going to hunt. You're going to sneak into your terrain features that give you some ambush, look at the animal, judge them for legal, and then build a position to make a shot. Right? If you're not doing that, a lot of these gadgets won't be as useful as you think. Because if you have elk running through a valley or mule deer that are on the run, you're not going to be able to do most of your setup. It's going to be quick. It's going to be ugly, and you need to rehearse some of it at the range, but you're going to get the job done if you
I feel
have
like
those skills
most
down.
hunting situations, shooting situations are done quick.
Never
it's like
perfect.
range, knee, shoot, or on the fly, animals getting ready to move, shoot. Like sometimes you do have, sometimes it is built for TV when it's just sitting there broadside, chewing grass in a meadow, got all the time in the world.
Yep.
Cameraman's
Yeah,
behind you.
but now we got e-bikes ripping past it, herd elk.
Yeah, now you're getting set up in an e-bike coming behind you, ringing his bell.
Get
You
off
got
the
Landen
trail.
having a nap in a tree stand with some sticks.
You know what I mean?
I think Derek's got to say e-bikes at this point because we segue all the way back around to e-bikes.
We started at e-bike. That's what I mean. I feel like deep down, the big man hates e-bikes. I feel like if he was sitting there on a glassing knoll and seen a dude driving by with an e-bike, I feel like Derek would take his hiking stick and stick it in that guy's front spoke.
He takes the shooting stick that he doesn't like and throws it in the guy's spokes.
And just watches the guy tumble down the hill and then picks his e-bike up and rides it down.
Oh yeah, no, I'd definitely be taking the e-bike.
Yeah.
I'm doing this because I'm getting an e-bike, guys. I don't want everybody using e-bikes.
No,
I want to be the only one
get it.
that has the e-bike.
Smart, right?
Yeah, man. I don't want to run the mountain bike no more. That
Dude,
sucked.
you're not just built for looks. You're smart too. But I knew you were smart as soon as you started pulling all that information on scent out. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Like all this stuff is gadgets, gizmos. It's all on the user and how you're going to utilize it. For like anything getting around, it could be what phase you are in your life. Like I know if my hips and my knees were getting arthritis as shit, like I would definitely be utilizing the e-bike.
So you don't like an e-bike now, but you're going to like an e-bike when you're older.
Yeah, when I'm crippled.
I get it.
Smart.
No, so the e-bike thing is really, it's really funny because I know another group that I always see hunting out in the same kind of areas that I'm hunting, and they use e-bikes, and they use them the right way.
Right.
They use the e-bike, they get into their areas, and then they're really intelligently hunting areas. And when they get an animal down, they get their e-bike up there to get the meat out.
Yeah, right.
Right.
My
They're
brother
not
uses a
reckless.
pedal bike just to cover ground quicker.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because he's not allowed to drive on the. He has to either hike, but in order to just cut time down, he uses a pedal bike. But he's got I think he's got like a 10-speed, with the curved handlebars. Puts his helmet on. He gets right into it.
Speed helmet.
Yeah. He gets right in there.
Shoots a whitetail in spandex.
He's just
blue spandex
right out. Which brother are we talking about here?
Treat it with ozone.
Hey man, like I got a flat. You got a spare?
Yeah, I think
imagine
there are
imagine
individuals
just seeing some dude in the backcountry just ripping by you, and he's got a little trailer. He's got all his hunting stuff in his buggy, and he was just like spandex right out. He's got his little clicky shoes, his aerodynamic helmet,
full visor.
That'd be great. Full visor.
I know a lot of triathlon guys. Maybe we can steal a unitard. Pull this off.
Dude.
See, the tick's easier.
Weren't you? You were trying to wear that when we were out turkey hunting. That full body suit, tight suit.
Oh, I mean, if
Yeah.
if I had it, I would have.
Yeah, it was
Safety.
revealing, very revealing.
I mean,
Please.
it's not like I'm Jacob or anything.
Yes.
Oh, classic, gentlemen.
All right, guys. Good panel as always. Remember, folks, if you guys want to get in on the draw, comment below. Let us know any questions, topics. This month is Vortex Bino Harness we're giving away. That draws on the 20th. So great stuff. Hit us up on Instagram. Derek K. Corey, Landen Fidek, Kevin L. Toye. All right, guys. Till the next one.